Is this the life you would have hoped for? Is this the life you would have died for?
Change places with me and then think about it again, because if you could, you'd carry one. Or change places with somebody worse off than me and watch them crawl rather than walk. And you take breathing as a second, the first thing. We have to think about breathing. We have to think about whether we're going to get up the following morning. You don't. You just carry it, you just take it as nature does. But we have to think about it. And it's hard sometimes. Yeah. There's not enough organ donors. That's the main worry. And I don't worry for me, I worry for others, because they're in a worse state than I am. But my daughter is hoping and praying that I get my lungs soon, so I can run after her. I've got to get back, yeah. Yeah.
In brief, cystic fibrosis is a multi-organ disorder that affects primarily the lungs and digestive system. A build-up of thick, sticky mucus in the lungs causes patients to have severe respiratory problems. Within the digestive system, CF makes it extremely difficult to digest and absorb adequate vitamins and nutrients from food. Over 2 million people in the UK carry the faulty gene, and 1 in 25 of the population is a carrier. If 2 carriers have a child, the child has 1 in 4 chance of having cystic fibrosis. Well equipped with coping with CF, patient Dominic Kavangh feels people aren't donating organs as they simply aren't clued up on the condition.
People aren't aware, first of all, they're not aware of what cystic fibrosis is, and those that might have heard of it probably are not aware of the degree of severity of CF, and that it ultimately requires transplant for the majority of patients. I think also within the population, unless you've actually been touched directly or perhaps indirectly by transplant in your family or friends, again, it's not top of people's list of priorities and of interest even. There's a lot that could be improved in making people aware of the need for donor organs and what the statistics actually are, reminders of the statistics, the number of people who say that they will they would be happy to donate organs, and the actual number who do donate is there's quite a disparity there.
Currently, the UK population stands at 63.6 million. 90% of people in the UK say they support organ donation. However, only 30% of people in the UK have joined the organ donation register. Martine's 21-year-old daughter is a CF sufferer. She knows herself how personal organ donation is.
I do tend to think people think, well, it's not for me. And if they do think that, then obviously they're in a situation where it's never came up. I also think it's a lack of knowledge, a lack of awareness. I myself am on the national database for the organ donor. Some people forget to carry the cards, so I'm on the national database for it. But I don't think any awareness will push people into doing it. They'll do it when they are ready.
One person who was fortunate enough to receive a transplant was CF patient Jennifer Wederell. After becoming so critically ill, an available donor really was her only option.
I don't think I'll be here. I had the transplant in April and obviously it's January now, so That's a good 8-9 months later, and I'd already been on the list coming up 2 years, so I don't think I would have made it past Christmas, I don't think.
As well as the need to increase awareness of organ donation, questions must be asked as to what else could be improved on a foundation level.
The organisation of the whole transplant service in this country, is it as good as it could be? I think there are things that could be improved. I think the centres that there are do an excellent job, but that could be a factor. Is it that we're not transplanting enough because things aren't as well organised as they could be?
At a time, any one centre has between 30 to 100 patients on the list, and they're able to transplant only about 30 to 40% of these patients. Unfortunately, some of them, they die on the waiting list, waiting for a transplant, and they don't get an opportunity for prolonging their life and improving the quality of life. So this shortage is quite severe, and there have been several efforts made to try and improve this.
One method that has been suggested is the introduction of an opt-out system, a process of presumed consent. Legislation is currently in the early stages of being implemented in Wales, so is this something the rest of the UK need to introduce? Results from other countries like Spain suggest this is the right option.
I think that's hugely important, but of course the lessons from around the world are that you can do a great deal by increasing awareness, but it isn't until you change the system and have some form of presumed consent that you really break through the barrier into the high levels of organ donation. But a lot of them say no just because they're traumatised by the situation. They didn't expect the question. They'd never thought about it before. They didn't know that the person concerned carried a donor card. All that kind of thing reduces the number of potential donors. Now, if you have a system of presumed consent, everyone knows that they're on a register.
Well, where the CF Trust are concerned, obviously they have their viewpoint. I work for the Cystic Fibrosis Trust, but me as a parent, I would rather have the opt-out rather than the opt-in. I tend to think nobody's body is any use to them after they've passed, but where somebody else could be making full use of their organs.
I think opt-out is sort of a sensible way to look at it, because it's still giving people choice to not go on the list, but it's eradicating that kind of margin of people that would get round to it but never do, and so their kind of, their feelings on transplant are never known. And I think it's important for people to have a choice. It has to be a choice to donate. It's a gift of life after all. But by giving people a chance to opt out, you're still having the choice, but it's just made easier for people, I think.
I would hope that by 2015 we will have significantly more number of donors. I hope that at least 20% more than what we have now.